Hello and welcome to Mod Kit Mayhem. So for the first project I decided to do the Dragon Hummel 1990s kit. It's an old kit but it's perfect for our first project. Like with any tank kit, you start with the tracks and the wheels, and I chopped out sections of the rubber on the wheels. It's just to make it look a bit rougher, like they've sort of seen a lot of service. And I roughed them up with some very coarse sandpaper. Tracks attain shape. You can see how it dips down there at the back. There's an error in the instructions there. It says that you raise the bar that holds the idle wheel higher than that, and then the trouble is by doing that you lose that little dip and it looks wrong. So I only found that after I glued them. I had to cut them away after and fix them lower, so they were pretty weak by that point, so I had to add some wires just to pin them in place, and that seemed to work okay. If you do that with yours, it's probably different on other kits, but on the Dragon kit anyway, check. Another thing, when you glue the two sprocket wheels together, make sure they align, because if you get those teeth out of sync, it twists the track around and you end up off. The track will try and bend to one side, and that can leave you in a bit of a bad situation. So make sure you check and double check that section, because you need to make sure it's all lined up. Tammy's glue was a glue that I'd not used before. Fantastic for the tracks. Put them into place and then just run the brush over the top of them, and it made things so much easier because you could shape them and adjust into a shape that works and looks more realistic. So here I added the front sprocket, and you can see this is the best way to do it. I found that if you make the longer sections for the top and bottom first, then do the idle wheel at the back, and then the sprocket at the front, start gluing that on, and that allows you to just tweak it so that you can just move it backwards and forwards, and you can see you get a more of a realistic curve because it goes around. It just allows it a little bit more wiggle space, because you could get it very, very wrong and end up with a whole section missing. First side done, and then I went to the second side. Again, same process, exactly the same way. Attaching the last piece of track to the front, and then that's the tracks done. There's a bit of tweaking. I think that's it. That's the good thing with the Tamiya glue, is it allows you that time, just enough time to just get it right so you're happy with it. And then it took me a few goes. The tracks pop a little bit there on the sprocket, so you have to make sure that you've pressed them in properly, but eventually they'll fall into place. So you can see it's all takes shape, and you can see the slope then at the back where it needed to slope down. Right, next was cutting off the fenders. I wanted the fenders to be damaged, so I decided to get rid of this section. And next add a damaged point here. So I was going to melt this. I didn't know how to do it. I thought candle was probably the best way, so I just put some heat on that, as you can see, and it stretched weird. It actually pulled back inside, and I just managed to save it from absolutely just totally wrecking it. See, it's moved backwards to it, so it contracted inwards and didn't drop down like I wanted to, but I managed to pull it back out with the pliers and save it. It slightly warped to the underneath, and you'll see I'll have to file that shortly. It looks better. It gives it a little more just character to the sort of, rather than just being flat and kind of dull. You can see that it's just warped. So with a file, I just filed that back out and it fitted fine. It wasn't a problem. So you see it fits back on. Next was to cut away the section. It's quite thick plastic, so it's a little bit tricky. You have to really go for it with a knife, but once you've done it, it's fine. This will just add a bit of, you can see the track more, and it kind of looks like it's been battered and worn and it's been ripped away by a tree or something somewhere, and the crew have not bothered to replace it. They just kept going. You'll see after I'd cut it away, there's a huge kind of plastic chunk that doesn't look right. It's very thick. So I've done this before on other tanks with plastic, rather than, I could add metal there if I wanted, but it was easier to just file it down to a kind of thinner lip. So you kind of file out a section like that, tapered towards the front, and it kind of gives the illusion that it's thinner. That's the old fairings. I got rid of that. Another thing I've done before recently is take an old can. This is an old beer can. Cut out the section. Scissors are fine for this. It'll blunt them. Don't use your own pair of scissors. Just use some ones from the workshop. Nobody will be upset. Cut that away. I used the old fairing as a guide to get me the right kind of shape and width. Roughly draw it out with a marker. Cut that with scissors. Use some flat tweezers like that and just fold it over. It's pretty simple. You can create the shape. So you can see I'm twisting it over like that. Create the pieces yourself using what you have, you know, and beer can's just the right thickness. It's great, it's perfect, it bends. You can use it to just make things look a bit more realistic. And it's quite good fun. It feels like you're doing extras of the kit, which you wouldn't, you know, if you'd use the plastic pieces. Yeah, it's okay, you can do that, that's great, that's fun, but this feels like you've sort of added your own sort of personal touch to it. Right, so use super glue here just to fix it in, gel super glue. Add that on, glue that down. I've used Gorilla Glue here, which I've not used before, and it took a bit getting used to. It's not, because it's a gel, usually I just use standard super glue. And again, I filed underneath there just to make it a little bit thinner. You can see now I've added some extra cleats and parts to the front using the same process with the metal again, just rather than using the plastic ones for a bit of fun. Cut a strip down like that, say 3mm, and then you can use that then to create a bracket, tool holder, anything really, and use some pliers or tweezers to bend it into shape. Just take your time, there's no rush, you know, it's part of the fun, enjoy it. You might not always get it right, sometimes you just have to throw a piece away, because I've done it plenty of times. It's just cut it wrong, bent it wrong, it didn't work and it looked terrible, it was the wrong shape. So just start again. It's cheap, you're not ruining anything, you've got plenty of beer cans to start again. It doesn't have to be super accurate. At the end of the day, it's kind of more of a representation of the bracket that you're making or whatever it is. It adds to the kit, you've put a little bit more extra effort into it. Right, so you can see now I've added the gun holding brackets. These were quite fiddly, and but they look great actually. I'm quite chuffed with them. Once I'd cleaned them up and added them on, I glued them into place after, once I'd got them, because there's no point them being, you know, still able to move. So I'm using Tammy glue, just added them to the kind of the brackets, and so it's stuck in place. Then it won't damage itself by falling over when you don't need it to. This is great. The Tammy glue is perfect for this kind of jobs, because the Revell kind of tube, you end up getting too much glue out, but the brush is a lot easier to control. Right, side panels. I wasn't really sure how to do these because, again, they're quite thick. I did think about replacing them and making them out of metal, and I thought, you know, there's a limit to what you can do with this kit at the end of the day, and let's be realistic, you know. Yeah, you have to be careful to cut sections, because some of them you need to cut and some you don't. Those you have to cut, the other one you didn't, sorry. And just double check that one, because you do need them. You keep these two for the back. So yeah, a lot of those toggles is a nightmare to cut them out. Very messy, but I did it. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe below. Thanks.